Welcome back to the Roll Tide Rewind in 2025. Alabama has just beaten their third ranked team in a row. And what's the reward? A fourth ranked team in a row. This time it's at home. We get the Tennessee Volunteers at home. I think they're ranked 11th in the country. And it's just another hard test. But let's congratulate the boys on a great win in Missouri. They fought through adversity, and were able to pull out the win. But now we're going to move our attention to the Tennessee offense. But first, let's introduce everybody here. Cole has gotten back from his Alaska vacation, and Parker is back from his job, right? Yeah, because you had to do a 8-hour regional. Is that right?
Yeah, I was on a different coverage assignment than you guys.
Well, Ryan is not here. Ryan is in Gulf Shores this week. It's his new city. And then James, I haven't heard from him since the Commanders lost yesterday. So we'll figure that one out. But let's hop into the film. This is Alabama's, I think, fourth game against Josh Heupel, possibly the fifth. It's the fifth. Never mind. It was 2021. But Josh Heupel, we know how his offense works. He likes to spread those receivers out, but also he likes to play fast. So you can see here in their first driving in Syracuse, look, 26 seconds on the play clock. They're already throwing a screen out to Chris Brazzell, another name we'll talk about in this video. But with this Josh Heupel offense, look at that. So 30 seconds left, and they're already lining up to the ball. And, this is very confusing for a defense because, you're trying to get set up. You may want to do some substitutions, but when the offense is already on the ball with 20 seconds left, you're all out of sorts. Syracuse is all out of sorts right there, gets a pass interference flag, and Tennessee's already across midfield. We also see what they did against Georgia. They opened against the Georgia game with 3 straight touchdown drives. Kind of similar stuff, a lot of variety of plays. 30 seconds on the clock, 2nd and 1. You just need a few yards. Hand it to your running back, Deshaun Bishop. We'll talk about him later in this video too. But yeah, and they'll also show an Arkansas drive as well. But what do y'all think of the Josh Heupel offense? I mean, we've watched it the past 4 years when he's played Alabama, but he's given Alabama fits almost every single time that he's played us. Like, what is it about this offense that causes so many fits? Not just for Alabama, but for, every team that they play.
Man, it's just so punishing. It's just play after play after play, and they're going and they're not stopping, and you don't get a chance to bring in your different packages. And they've got a guy that can run a 4.2 40, and they've got a tight end that's open over the middle constantly, and you don't know if you need to bring in a linebacker or an extra corner. Oh, and they've snapped the ball already. This is an offense that likes to keep you on your toes. It's not exactly a secret, right? Tennessee gives everybody fits offensively. They're never going to get into a game that ends, probably below the spread. Here's the thing. The best way to stop a fast offense is to force incompletions. That's the biggest thing. You have to rely on your secondary, and our secondary has been very good. Now, Thomas, you and Cole were talking before this started. Nobody throws on a team less than they throw on Alabama. They've received the fewest passing attempts out of any team in the country, if I heard that right while I was off getting a drink. But the way you do it is through your coverage and your secondary. And obviously, some, maybe not controversy, but everyone saw the Damani Jackson play this last week against Missouri. And everyone has their own opinion and lots to say. But when you look at just like the zone coverage, the man-to-man coverage, the pass breakup ability of the secondary of guys like Bray Hubbard, just as a safety that can get into the thick of things, that's how you slow down an offense because the ball has to get back to the line of scrimmage. The play clock stops, the game clock stops. You have time to make those substitutions to get fresh legs. Now that all changes when you bring in the running element, which we will get to. And Tennessee has a prolific running offense as well. But we saw what the Alabama defense did against Ahmad Hardy. I feel like this is going to be a careful balancing act for this defensive staff. Throughout practice this week, it's evaluating guys situationally that maybe they haven't up until this point of the season. Guys that maybe they haven't trusted to get, 85% of the snaps that they may be anticipating Tennessee runs in the hurry up. So it'll be really interesting to see. But the long answer short there is that if the secondary does its job right and is breaking up passes and you hold Joey Aguilar to maybe a 54% completion percentage, that's a win, right? That is Alabama coming and doing what it needs to do and against an offense that is explosive, not just in like depth of target or average yards per play, but in how they wear on you like a jackhammer against concrete.
Yeah. And like you both mentioned, it's no secret that this is a good offense. This is one of the best offenses in the country year in and year out. It doesn't matter if they've got Joey Aguilar or Nico or Hendon Hooker or even Joe Milton. Even Joe Milton, who wasn't very good. I think the offense was still solid while he was there. So it's tough to slow down. Now, thankfully, as we've kind of already alluded to, the strength of this Alabama, definitely defense, I'd maybe even say the whole team, is the secondary. The secondary for Alabama has been very, very good this year. It's why teams, like Parker mentioned, are not throwing the ball much against Alabama. But unfortunately, that's also probably the strength of Tennessee's team. So we're going to get a good strength-on-strength matchup here. We'll have to see if Alabama can take advantage of that matchup and if our guys on the outside can stay in coverage. Because in an offense that runs this fast, the biggest thing you can do is be fundamentally sound and always be in the right spot, because you're going to have very little time pre-snap to make your pre-snap adjustments, figure out what you're going to do on the play. So you've got to be quick to react to whatever Josh Heupel throws at you. This offense is really, really good no matter who's running it, because it comes from the Art Briles system, and basically everybody who runs it has a very good offense. So it's going to be tough, but I think Alabama can be up to the challenge.
Yeah, and like to say that what Parker was talking about, Alabama's opponents throw the ball 22 times a game against Alabama. That's the lowest in the nation. Aguilar, in the Power 4 games that they played, he's thrown it 28, 36, 40, and 25. So it's no secret that I think 22 is going to be beaten in this game. Alabama has the third pass defense in the country with yards per game at 136.5. Tennessee in SEC play has thrown it 309 yards per game. And I think against Georgia, he had over like 370 yards. And that was one of his best games that he played, Joey Aguilar. But yeah, that's what Tennessee wants to do. They want to punish you like that. And they also want to punish you with the deep ball. And they have some great wide receivers. We will get to the deep ball session. Here we go. Chris Brazzell has probably played himself into wide receiver one competition for the NFL draft. I feel like he is a huge receiver, has such a wide range of motion to catch any pass and also just to catch deep balls. That was Braylon Staley right there. But this is one of the craziest plays of the year when I watched this live. Brazzell gets almost tackled by Ellis Robinson, and doesn't really matter. He's just going to make it look really easy. And then I think his next catch is probably one of the more jaw-dropping catches where they don't have Ellis Robinson on him. They switched up in the game, had him on different corners, but it really doesn't matter. Like, the corner's in a good position there, and Brazzell, it just doesn't really matter. But with the receivers this year, they have Chris Brazzell, 32 catches, 536 yards, 7 touchdowns. That by far leads the team. Braylon Staley, 31 catches, 431 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And then Mike Matthews is their third guy, 26 catches for 416 yards and 2 touchdowns. So got a great trio of receivers led by Brazzell. And what we'll do here is on the next few clips, I want to show you. This next probably like play. I forgot about this one. This is Brazzell's catch against Mississippi State, where he's falling down, 2 defenders around him, and that's an insane catch. Like, coverage doesn't matter whenever your guy's going to play as good as that. And then they like to hit Braylon Staley a lot in the middle of the field, like that against Arkansas. Hey, that's a good time to throw. But here's the Alabama game from last year. Alabama fans, you remember this game. It was a disaster of a game. But Nico missed a lot of passes. Brazzell had opportunities. I think this is squirrel right over the middle. Wide open, just dud. I feel like Tennessee is going to try to capitalize on this because they knew they had it last year and they just kept missing. And for anybody that didn't watch the Alabama-Tennessee game last year, credit to you. You missed a lot of bad quarterback play on both sides of the ball. And I think with Tennessee, they're going to try to capitalize on this deep ball. And this is the only deep ball that was caught by Tennessee last year. It probably changed the game. But what do y'all think about Dijon Lee, his emergence, and how important is he in this game against a guy like Chris Brazzell?
That's the guy I was going to point out. We obviously
real quick. So sorry. Squirrel White has already beat us once this year. He can't do it again. Sorry.
That's true. I don't know if you guys know this, but you're actually not allowed to play for two different teams in the same year. So it's a
That
big
is
key to the
true.
game.
Some are
No,
saying.
Dijon Lee was the guy I was going to mention because we've all seen the clip of Damani Jackson. I don't know what he was doing. I still don't know what he was doing. I think Damani's a good player, but I think whether Damani looked bad last week or not, I think this is a Dijon Lee game either way because Chris Brazzell, you've seen it on all these clips. He's not just big. He's incredible. He has incredible body control. He's so good at using his body to box out the defender, get it to a spot where only he can catch it, and making a play. He's a very talented receiver based on that big frame. Dijon Lee, I believe 6'4" as a true freshman. This is going to be a big game for him. He's got the size to compete with Brazzell for those jump balls, those 50-50 balls that Brazzell was able to torch Georgia and Mississippi State and basically everybody he's played on. So Dijon Lee's going to have to step up in this game. I think he'll probably start if I had to guess, and I think he'll probably play a lot. Hopefully we'll keep him kind of maybe not on Brazzell every play, but hopefully we'll try to have him on Brazzell a good bit of the time.
I never thought that I would say this in my life, but these words are going to leave my mouth. We just need to do what Bobby Petrino would have done. And did last week. Chris Brazzell against the Razorbacks. 1 catch for 5 yards. If you're looking for the secret, there it is, right? Who would have thought that an interim head coach, Bobby Petrino, would have kept the Razorbacks in a 1-score game with the Tennessee Volunteers? The plan is laid out. I don't care if Tennessee was looking to this game and they thought they could just steamroll the Razorbacks. It worked, right? This is the perfect opportunity as a head coach to take the vulnerabilities that you've seen and implement them into schemes that you already have set up, right? This is where you learn and you watch the film and you implement it. I don't really have much else to say. Brazzell's a great receiver. 1 catch for 5 yards, though, is inexcusable as a first-round pick, and I think Alabama is more than capable of repeating that success with the personnel they have if Arkansas can do it.
Yeah. And one more thing I wanted to mention, especially about the deep ball, is another key guy, I think, in this game. Kind of been quiet so far this year, but I think Keon Sabb is going to have a big role in this game. He likes to play that deep free safety. If you remember at the beginning of last year, he was I think he had 3 picks in the first 3 games, if I remember correctly, but he was all over the field making plays for Alabama. We haven't really seen that to start this year. This could be a big game for him if Tennessee's game plan is to try to chuck it down the field and hit these incredible receivers down the field. He's going to need to be that safety blanket on the back end.
And speaking of Keon Sabb, watch this play right here.
Just as a
That's Keon Sabb making a play. And you want to know something about this play? Keon Sabb has a broken foot on this play. He's playing with a broken foot, and that's the play that he makes. So wanted to give him credit where credit was due. But I think this is actually the last play of the season he played before he had to have surgery. But you see him start jogging off gingerly. But he made that play on a broken foot. And when I was watching the tape, I was just amazed at him, the speed to get there to make that play. But, yeah, very important that Alabama is going to have to limit the deep ball. But also, we have to be honest with ourselves. The quarterback play in this year's game is going to be just a little bit more high level than what we saw in last year's game. Credit to Nico, though. UCLA's on a 2-game win streak. I'll give him credit.
He's gotten better.
He's gotten a lot
the
better.
last 2 games. The first 5 games notwithstanding because he was pretty bad. So.
Let's get into Tennessee's running backs real quick. While I'm talking about how much they love to pass the ball, they have 3 running backs that each have above 43 carries. Their main running back they use is Deshaun Bishop. He's number 18 right here. He is a very explosive back, 63 carries, 7.6 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns. He had a really good game against Arkansas. It was his career high in rushing. And then we also will see Star Thomas in this game. That's Deshaun Bishop's longest run of the year against Syracuse. But Star Thomas is a bigger power running back. He's able to make more plays just with strength. He also 62 carries, 5.5 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns. Very elusive, finding the holes well, finding the right spots to get more yards on the plays. And then also they have Peyton Lewis is 43 carries for 200 yards, a little less than 5 yards per carry. He's more of their power back, and we'll see in these next 3 clips right here. He's used a lot in goal-to-goal situations, but He doesn't just powers through the defender there. And then against Arkansas, he had 2 second half touchdown rushes. Each were like 1 to 2 yards. Like that one was 2 yards. I think the next one was, I think, a short goal line run. But they got 3 running backs they can use, and it's always a blessing for an offense when you trust 3 running backs that you can use. And then also with Aguilar is definitely a pass first guy. He's not trying to beat you with his legs, but they use a lot of zone read like this play right here, and the defense gets fooled so easily because they don't run a ton of plays with Aguilar with his legs. But when they do, they are very successful, like this against Georgia. No one's going to account for the quarterback on that play. And then against Mississippi State on their drive to tie the game, they trust Aguilar with a run play, gets a touchdown to tie the game, send it to overtime. But with Tennessee, how important is their run game in this game, especially with their high prolific passing offense?
Man, I don't know if I'm scared of any running back room in the country after taking on Ahmad Hardy and holding him to only 5.6 a carry. He had less than 100 rushing yards. I think he only had like 55 or something ridiculous like that. These guys don't scare me. If Tennessee wants to get it done on the ground, let them. That just means they're not testing us through the air. And while I have full faith in our guys, one of them will get through and one of them will be a touchdown. I'd be willing to bet that Tennessee has a 40-plus yards touchdown pass in this game. It's just going to happen. It's who they are as an identity. If that means that Tennessee has a long, slow-moving drive that is, 70% run, 30% pass, and it ends with the touchdown or even offense, because the Alabama offensive identity is becoming more and more solid every single day. It's really starting to shape up in a direction that I think, this coaching staff is really, I don't know if I would go so far as to say pleased with right now, but they're content with it and with the pieces that they have. And they know what they're capable of. So you know what you are offensively. If you can shut down Tennessee's plan and make them adapt on the fly and make them have to work through those 3 different guys, that's a success. That's a rousing success against the Josh Heupel offense.
Let's get a little disagreement going on the Roll Tide Rewind. I'm gonna have to disagree with that. I think I might even be more scared of their run game than I am of their pass game. I think one of the biggest misconceptions of this Josh Heupel offense is that it's like an air raid. You're going to throw it all the time. They run the ball well every single year, and this year's no exception. Thomas mentioned the 3 solid running backs. As a team, they're averaging 5.3 yards a carry. And while the defense, I think the rush defense was better last week against Ahmad Hardy, you really saw it really kick in after he got banged up. I thought the first drive especially, I thought they ran on us the whole time. I thought he played pretty well, and then he kind of got banged up kind of midway through the game. And then after that, we were kind of able to assert ourselves defensively. But trivia question, does anybody know where Alabama ranks in terms of defensive yards per rush in the FBS? Just a guess.
I'm going to go 96.
Parker? 84th. Thomas, great guess. They are 98th out of about 135 FBS teams, I believe. 98th. So giving up 4.82 yards a rush. That's not great. Now, a lot of that is from the Florida State game. They ran all over us. I think since then it's gotten better. But I still think we have trouble defending the run. I think Tennessee always has good running backs, and I think this could be no exception. I think our secondary is going to be able to hold up. I'm a little bit worried about the run defense.
Yeah, that's a fair concern. Like, I feel like with the Missouri game, what was kind of confusing, they have Jamal Roberts too behind Ahmad Hardy, but I felt like they put a lot of that game in Bo Prabula's hands, and I thought Prabula had a rough game. I went in when I did the review last week. He had a high completion percentage, but the only game he really had showed up was Kansas, and that's the only game he really needed to show up. But they put a lot on his hands in that game. Kind of same thing Vanderbilt did with Diego Pavia, and they both kind of struggled, especially in the second half. But I feel like Aguilar is probably the best quarterback Alabama's played so far. I'm trying to think in my head. I think he probably is. Yeah.
Definitely is.
Yeah. Definitely. Now that I'm thinking about it, he definitely is the best quarterback Alabama has played. But we'll move into the next part. A big part of their success is their offensive line. I just have a few plays here where Aguilar has time to throw, but the main part is just to talk about their offensive line. They've only given up 3 sacks on Aguilar this year. This is their 7th game now. They've only given up 3 sacks. And like with how Tennessee runs this offense, where they're passing so fast, they're getting up to the line so fast, it's almost hard just to get pressure consistently. Now, I remember in 2022 when Alabama had Will Anderson and Dallas Turner, they only sacked Hendon Hooker 1 time in that 2022 game. And, it makes a difference. Final score is 52-49. But they only got to him once, even with our 2 elite pass rushers. And then we don't have anyone like that, obviously, this year. But I have noticed in the past, few games, we have gotten better pressure. Especially LT Overton. I feel like he's come along and is like asserting himself a lot more in the past few games. But you see on these few clips, like Aguilar has time to throw the ball, make these longer developed pass plays kind of work. Like that's like a 20-yard out route right there. And then also with the pressure comes, he just has the ability to run out of the pocket and make a play when the offensive line is holding up so well. You have all this time to do whatever you kind of want to do. And then, but we'll get into what Alabama was doing well against Missouri. We'll talk about this, but Alabama, like LT Overton and even the man, the myth, the legend, Keon Keeley has asserted himself. He's finally here. He got a sack in this game. LT Overton was getting held on that play. Doesn't matter. Makes the play. But yeah, I'm really impressed with LT Overton. I feel like he's asserted himself more. But I think the biggest key for Alabama in this game is not the secondary, in my opinion. It's the pass rush. If we're able to get home to Aguilar multiple times, we're throwing off their drives. We're making them have to slow down and like make play calls, substitute guys so we can get fresher bodies onto the field. But I know like y'all were talking about like the run defense being concerned, the pass defense being just having a lot of trust in that. But what about the pass rush in this game? What do y'all think about that? Like how important is it in this game?
Yeah, it's big, and it's something I definitely don't think it's Alabama's strength and hasn't been for a couple of years now, really, since we lost those guys like Will Anderson and Dallas Turner. We haven't had that elite guy coming off the edge, and I'm not quite sure we have it this year. LT Overton's done a pretty good job at getting pressure. He leads the team with 3 sacks, but nobody else with more than 1.5 sacks so far this year. Now, we've rotated a lot of defensive linemen, had some injuries, so that's contributing to that a little bit, but there's not that – I don't feel like we have that one guy that you can kind of count on to really – make that quarterback's life miserable for 4 quarters. And as you mentioned, against an offensive line like Tennessee that's been very good this year, that's something where we're going to have to really play well. We need to find ways to create pressure, and that's one of the biggest challenges I think we're going to have in this game.
Yeah, I don't need to elaborate on that at all. This is by far the biggest hurdle that the defense will face. Is the pass rush. I don't know where I've got a lot of words to say, but that pretty succinctly ties it up.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. Provula definitely, I feel like felt pressured, and Pavia in the second half against Alabama definitely felt more pressured and had to like force a few plays. And I think hopefully we can get Aguilar to do the same. So if we go to these last few clips here, these are like some turnovers that Aguilar has had. This is against Georgia, gets pressured. The ball kind of undersails. The safety's able to run under top of it. Then against Mississippi State, Aguilar was kind of unlucky with his turnovers. Throws it here to Miles Kitzelman, who is their tight end. He has a little over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he does kind of throw a high throw here to Kitzelman, trying to ask him to make more of a play, but it does hit him in the hands, but it bounces off, and Mississippi State's able to make an opportunistic play at the end of the third quarter to give their offense good field position. And then in the tie ball game here, same kind of thing, throws it over the middle to Kitzelman, asks him to make kind of a tough catch, and then the ball bounces in the air, another interception for Mississippi State, this time in the fourth quarter, sets their offense up to able to take the lead. Now, Tennessee ends up winning the game, but these are just some opportunistic plays that are popping up for our defense to make. Now, against Missouri, this is a Bo Provula fumble here inside the 30, but Missouri does recover it. Now, at this point in the game, the score is 17-7. Alabama has full momentum in this game after Missouri scored 7, was up 7-0, and Alabama went up 17 straight points. But imagine if this fumble is recovered by Alabama, like how much this game truly shifts, because the game kind of shifted a little bit more in Missouri's favor after this for just a little bit. But this is a big opportunistic play that Alabama could have had. And then also later on in the second quarter, I think, it was second quarter when Roberts or Ahmad Hardy fumbled out of bounds, but we had an opportunity to recover it inbounds. And also Dijon Lee also dropped an interception in this game. So those are just opportunistic plays that are there for us. And with an offense like Tennessee, we need to be able to seize those opportunities. But I won't narc on Dijon Lee and the defense too much. In the fourth quarter against Missouri, we were able to get 2 big turnovers. This one was from Bray Hubbard. Great catch. But it was a third down, and Missouri's only down by 3. It sets our offense up at the 40. I think we punted or missed a field goal or whatever, but it still set us up with an opportunity to get more points. And then to end the game here, Bo Perbula, don't know what he was doing, but threw it straight to Dijon Lee, and it was intercepted and sealed the game. But how important is it for our defense to, force turnovers, or not necessarily force turnovers, but the ball bounces our way? Because, the difference in this game could just be a turnover battle, like a simple Tennessee had 1 turnover, Alabama had 0. And we have the best turnover margin in the country, I believe, because our offense has only turned it over twice this year. So how important is it to win this turnover battle, and also time possession battle too, if you will?
Man, I don't want to get into the Sabanisms too hard, like the whole sacks versus QB pressure thing. But I think turnovers are one of the hardest stats to predict, and I think that you can never really rely on them as a guaranteed stat. It's just kind of fluky, if I'm being honest. But what you can prepare for is being in the right place at the right time. You can be the safety that's coming over for that double coverage that gets underneath. And, when Aguilar does feel pressure and he does underthrow it, that's a tendency, right? So I don't know anything about forcing turnovers or being in a place to force turnovers. I think it's all about being in the right place to potentially get a turnover. It's not about punching the ball. It's not like Joey Aguilar has an eject button on the back of his neck, and if you punch it hard enough, he drops the ball, even though I think science says that may be true.
That would help,
You just
though,
have to
wouldn't it?
you have to be smart. You have to be in the right place at the right time. So that would be super awesome. There's my take on that.
Yeah, no, 100%. Turnovers are very fluky, and a lot of times you can play a really good defensive game, and you just you're not able to get any turnovers. It's basically impossible to get an interception unless the quarterback does something wrong or somebody does something wrong, because our receiver could run a wrong route. If it's a perfect ball to an open guy, it's not going to get picked. But I think one of the places we can capitalize, the biggest read I have on Joey Aguilar, and it's something I had heard coming into this year, and you definitely saw it play out a lot in the Georgia game especially, is that he is a gunslinger in every sense of the word. He's going to make huge throws, and we've highlighted a lot of those, but he's also going to trust his arm too much sometimes, and I think that's where we can kind of decide this game. And I say we can decide this game kind of like Parker said. I think it's going to be more he's going to decide this game, Joey Aguilar, that is, because I think if he tries to press too much, make some of these bad decisions where he's throwing into coverage and trusting his guy to make a play, if we're able to make that play instead of them, I think that could be the difference in the game. We saw it last year with Nico missing some of those deep balls. I think it's going to depend on how many of those deep balls Aguilar is able to hit and how well we cover those deep balls.
Yeah, and we'll get into the last part. What is our prediction for this game? I think right now the FanDuel number, it started out, I think, at Alabama -7.5. It is now grown to Alabama -9.5. So I think the money is on Alabama for this game. But where do y'all see this game going? I'll go first, I guess. Tennessee, it's just a hard game to predict. I do like this game being at home. Tennessee, I guess just a hard read. They're number 1 in scoring offense in SEC play. They're also dead last in scoring defense. So you're scoring a lot of points, but you're also giving up a lot of points. And when you're going against an elite offense like Alabama, you're asking a lot out of your defense. And then also at the same time, if they don't miss a field goal at the regulation against Georgia, they're a top 5 team they're undefeated with a win over Georgia and no losses on the resume. But I think I will go with Alabama, and I think I'm gonna go -9.5. I think Alabama wins this game by more than 10 points. I think this is like a 45-34 type game. I think that this is a game Ty Simpson and the receivers are going to have to be big. Tennessee's pass defense has been shredded a lot this year, but also Tennessee's pass rush leads the SEC in sacks. So it's like you have the worst pass defense, but you have the best pass rush. And we saw the Florida State game with Ty, and then he was okay against Missouri. He was able to like make great throws under pressure, but also was able to get hit a lot of times and held onto the ball a little too long. And I think that's going to be the big key on offense for Alabama. But I think 45-34 is where I'm going to go.
Yeah, I kind of think along the same lines. The score I was actually going to give out was 38-26 is what I'm going to go with. But I also agree. I think it's good. I've talked a lot of negativity about this game, but I honestly, I think I feel better about this game than I have definitely last week and even maybe the Vanderbilt game. I think we match up a little bit better than against Tennessee than we did against some of those other teams with the way we're able to defend the pass better than we're able to defend the run. I think we can limit some of those big plays and potentially force Joey Aguilar into some turnover worthy plays and hopefully be able to convert those. I also think offensively, we're going to be able to throw the ball down the field. I wasn't able to check. Do y'all know if either of Tennessee's corners are back? I know they had 2 injured corners to start the year. I have not heard anything that they're back. I know Jermod McCoy was supposed to miss a lot of the year. He's one of the better ones in the country. But I think they have some problems in the secondary. I think we're going to be able to exploit those. I like us to win this game.
I am not going to tell you my score prediction. You can actually catch it on X at Roll Tide Rewind, where we drop all of the Roll Tide Rewind staff scores predictions on Wednesday before every game. And if you go this week, you'll see me with 2 straight crowns for pick winner. I'm tied with Thomas this week, but it's still
give
counts,
me a crown. Give me
right?
a crown too. Thank you.
I don't know. You'll get one. You'll get one. We were both 1 point off this last week of the Missouri game. Plus, minus, I don't know. I think Tennessee covers, admittedly. What I am smashing, though, is the under this week. I think Tennessee's going to have to get it done on the ground, and I think that even with the Josh Heupel offense, I think they're going to take a lot of time moving the ball. And I think that Alabama is going to utilize a long drive sort of system to give their defense the time to rest, especially if you can't break up the pass and you do have a lot of your guys playing 85% of the snaps in a drive that normally nickel corner maybe doesn't do that, right? So I think that this is a game that Alabama is trying to slow down, and with an over under at 60.5, I'm going to take the under. There's my best bet.
Okay. Well, like Parker said, you can follow us on X at Roll Tide Rewind. You'll see our staff score prediction from me, Cole, Parker, James, Ryan, and our social media manager, Zach Williams. You can also follow us here on YouTube. We just crossed 430 subscribers. We are churning so close to 500. So if you like what you see, please, hit a like, give us a subscription, and even comment on what you think about this preview today. But for that is it for us. I hope everyone has a great rest of your week, and Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.